And out of this, Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. The House was expected to vote this week to hold them in contempt of Congress. The pair was originally subpoenaed back in August. However, neither of them appeared for their depositions last month. Well, now the Clintons' legal team says they will testify if the House does not move forward with contempt proceedings. Meanwhile, Epstein's survivors are slamming the Justice Department after the latest batch of files included unredacted images and names of victims. An attorney for multiple survivors spoke about that issue with Major Garrett on The Takeout.
Two of my clients were clearly identified in these documents. Their names were not redacted whatsoever. And this is not rocket science, right? It was a very simple task of just taking the names of the victims they were aware of, putting them into a search mode in an Adobe Acrobat platform, finding the victims' names and redacting them. And they didn't even do that.
What's going on, everybody? Adam here. Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify publicly, live, about their relationship with Epstein after weeks of dodging subpoenas. The move has flipped the Republican investigation on its head, and Trump is said to be furious. Think about what this means for a moment. The Clintons spent weeks telling congressional investigators that the subpoenas were legally invalid. They argued they had already provided all the information they had in writing. They suggested the whole investigation was just political theater designed to embarrass them and damage their reputation. Republicans threatened to hold them in contempt, which is a serious charge that can result in jail time. The House Oversight Committee, run by Trump allies, was ready to drag them in by force if necessary. It was this massive standoff. The Clintons versus Trump's Congress, with Epstein's legacy of corruption and abuse in the middle of it all. Maximum political drama with the highest possible stakes. And then, the Clintons did something that nobody expected. They blinked, except they didn't really blink. They did something far smarter. They said, okay, fine, we'll testify, but we want it public. We want it on camera. We want the whole country watching.
Former US President Bill Clinton and former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in a House investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Clintons were facing a vote which could have led to potential criminal charges for refusing to testify in Congress. Chair of the House Oversight Committee, Representative James Comer, has continued to press for criminal contempt of Congress charges. Attorneys for the Clintons have said the pair would accept Comer's demands and will appear for depositions at a future date, if Comer agreed not to move forward with contempt proceedings. Comer said an agreement had not yet been finalised and that he was not immediately dropping the charges. The charges would carry the threat of a substantial fine and even incarceration, if passed by the House and successfully prosecuted by the Justice Department. As Comer and the Clintons negotiated over the terms of the depositions, the House Rules Committee postponed advancing the contempt of Congress resolutions.
Clinton's lawyer wrote to the committee and said that an open hearing will best suit their concerns about fairness. That's not the language of someone who's scared or trying to hide something. That's the language of someone who's confident, someone who believes they can handle whatever questions come their way, someone who wants to demonstrate transparency precisely because they know they have nothing to hide. They're not just agreeing to testify, they're challenging Republicans to do it publicly. They're daring them to ask their questions in front of the entire nation where everyone can see the full exchange. No edited transcripts. No leaked snippets taken out of context, no selective release of damaging portions while burying exculpatory evidence. Just put them on television and let's go. And that move flips the entire script, because now Republicans are stuck in a position they never anticipated. They wanted to grill the Clintons behind closed doors. They wanted to control the narrative, release whatever made the Clintons look bad, and bury whatever didn't fit their political narrative. That's the classic congressional hearing strategy that has been used by both parties for decades. But the Clintons just said, no, we're doing this live.
Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in the House Oversight Committee's investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. For months, the Clintons had been adamant that they would not comply with the subpoenas. They called them invalid and legally unenforceable. However, they have now agreed to testify. That is according to their attorneys. We have this from Fox News on X. They said just in, former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in the House Oversight Committee's Jeffrey Epstein investigation after lawmakers moved towards holding them in criminal contempt of Congress. This is coming just days before the House was expected to vote to hold them in contempt of Congress. So Bill and Hillary Clinton now agreeing to testify in the Epstein investigation. We also want to bring you this statement. This is from Bill Clinton's Deputy Chief of Staff sharing this on X. He said, "They negotiated in good faith. You did not. They told you under oath what they know, but you don't care. But the former president and former Secretary of State will be there. They look forward to setting a precedent that applies to everyone."
And now, if Republicans refuse, if they insist on closed-door depositions instead of public hearings, it looks like they're the ones hiding something. It looks like they're afraid of what might come out if the full exchange is televised. It looks like they're more interested in political warfare than actual truth-seeking. That's a nightmare scenario for the GOP, and it's exactly what the Clintons were hoping to achieve. The genius of this move lies in the Clintons' understanding that their greatest vulnerability, their connection to Jeffrey Epstein, could become their greatest weapon. They know that Epstein was connected to everyone in power, not just Democrats, but Republicans too, including Donald Trump himself. They know that if the full story of Epstein's network comes out, it will expose powerful people on both sides of the aisle. So they're saying, let's talk about Epstein. Let's talk about all of it. Let's put everything on the table publicly and see who's really afraid of transparency. And that's what has Trump panicking, because the last thing he wants is Bill Clinton on national television talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Because Trump was also close to Epstein. Trump's name is also in those documents. Trump's own words about Epstein are documented and damning. He called Epstein a terrific guy. He said Epstein liked women on the younger side. Those are his words, and they're on the record.
Here's what Donald Trump said about his old friend Jeffrey Epstein in 2002. "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life." On the younger side. Donald Trump knew about Jeffrey Epstein and what Donald Trump called the younger side. Terrific guy. That's what Jeffrey Epstein was to Donald Trump. Terrific guy. And to this day, Donald Trump has not said a negative word about Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump has attacked the leaders of countries that are our strongest allies. Donald Trump has attacked Congressman Justin Amash this weekend for leaving the Republican Party. Donald Trump has attacked Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer. He's attacked me. Donald Trump has attacked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people, but he has never once said a single negative word about Jeffrey Epstein, not one word. Jeffrey Epstein did not see it coming when his private plane took off from Paris.
Trump's Justice Department under Attorney General Pam Bondi is supposed to be releasing all the Epstein files. Congress passed bipartisan legislation forcing the release. Trump signed it. Bondi promised maximum transparency. And yeah, millions of pages have started coming out, including photos of Epstein and Clinton together, flight logs, correspondence, and other documents. But Democrats and Epstein survivors are accusing the DOJ of cherry-picking, of going slow, of only releasing stuff that makes Trump's enemies look bad while protecting well. Trump, they're saying the releases are too slow, the redactions are too heavy, the timing is suspicious. And now the Clintons are saying, we'll testify publicly about Epstein, at the exact same time Trump's DOJ is being accused of hiding Epstein evidence. That's a disaster for Trump, because if the Clintons go on TV and answer every question, show total transparency, don't dodge anything, then people are going to ask, okay, where's Trump's transparency? Where are the rest of the files? What's Trump hiding? This is the trap that the Clintons have set. They turned what was supposed to be their scandal into everyone's scandal. They took a Republican attack and turned it into a Republican problem. They said, you want to talk about Epstein? Let's talk about Epstein. All of it. Everything. Everyone who was involved. Let's put it all on the table publicly. House Oversight Chair James Comer is out here bragging that the Clintons completely caved, but it sure looks like they just checkmated him. They agreed to testify, but only if it's public. So now Comer has to choose. Does he give them the public hearing they want and risk the Clintons looking credible and transparent? Or does he keep it behind closed doors and look like he's scared of what might come out? Either way, he loses something. Either way, the Clintons gain something. That's the brilliance of their strategy. The Clintons are calling for a public Epstein hearing. Trump is panicking because his own DOJ's handling of Epstein is about to come under scrutiny. Republicans are stuck between wanting to attack the Clintons and not wanting to open up a can of worms about everyone connected to Epstein, including people in Trump's orbit. So yeah, Bill Clinton just challenged Congress to question him publicly about Jeffrey Epstein, and Trump is freaking out because this was supposed to be a win for Republicans, and somehow the Clintons just turned it into a trap. Let's break down how this happened and what it means for everyone involved, because the timeline on this is absolutely insane. This whole thing starts with House Republicans launching an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's connections to powerful people. Obviously, Bill Clinton is at the top of that list. Flight logs show Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet multiple times. There are photos of them together. Clinton has admitted he knew Epstein socially. So, Republicans want answers. In January 2026, the House Oversight Committee, chaired by James Comer, a Trump ally, issued subpoenas to both Bill and Hillary Clinton. Not requests, not invitations, subpoenas, legal orders to appear and testify. The committee made it clear, you show up or we hold you in contempt of Congress. That's serious. Contempt of Congress can mean jail time, it's not a joke, but the Clintons said no. On January 13th, they sent a letter to the committee saying the subpoenas were legally invalid. They argued they'd already provided all the information they have in writing. They suggested the whole thing was just political theater, a circus designed to embarrass them, and they weren't playing along. Basically, they told Congress, "We're not coming, deal with it." Republicans lost their minds. Comer went on TV and said the subpoenas were approved unanimously by the GOP-run Oversight Committee. He said the Clintons were obstructing justice. He said they were acting like they were above the law, and he threatened very publicly to hold them in contempt. The entire Republican media machine jumped on it. The Clintons are hiding something. The Clintons are scared. The Clintons won't answer questions about Epstein because they're guilty. That narrative for weeks, and then everything changed. The Clintons' lawyer, John Sklidadani, wrote to Comer and said, "Okay, we'll testify. Hillary will sit for a film deposition on February 26th. Bill will do the same on February 27th. Both depositions will be transcribed and recorded. You'll get your testimony." Now, Comer immediately declared victory. He put out a statement saying the Clintons completely caved and will appear for transcribed film depositions this month. He made it sound like Republicans crushed them, forced them to comply, proved they were guilty all along. Total win for the GOP, except not really, because buried in that same letter from the Clintons' lawyer was this line, "An open hearing will best suit our concerns about fairness." Wait, what? The Clintons aren't just agreeing to testify behind closed doors. They're asking for a public hearing. They want it televised. They want it open. They want the whole country watching. And their lawyer literally asked Comer to let them know the date and time for the hearing or which pair of deposition dates the chairman prefers. Like they're giving him options, public hearing or closed-door depositions. Your choice, but we're ready for either. That's not caving. That's calling a bluff. Because now Comer is stuck. If he agrees to a public hearing, the Clintons get to control the narrative. They get to look transparent. They get to answer every question, show they have nothing to hide, and turn the whole thing into a referendum on Republican overreach. But if Comer refuses, if he insists on closed-door depositions, then it looks like he's scared, like he doesn't want the public to see the full exchange. Like maybe, just maybe, the Clintons aren't the ones with something to hide. And here's where Trump comes in. Because Trump's DOJ under Pam Bondi is supposed to be releasing all the Epstein files. Congress passed bipartisan legislation forcing the Justice Department to disclose every Epstein-related document. Trump signed it. It was this big moment. Total transparency. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. All that stuff? Bondi promised maximum transparency. She said millions of pages would be released. She said the American people deserve to know the truth. And to be fair, documents have started coming out. Millions of pages, flight logs, photos, correspondence. Some of it is absolutely damning. There are pictures of Epstein and Clinton together. There are records of Clinton flying on Epstein's jet. It's all real. It's all documented. Republicans are loving it. But Democrats and Epstein survivors are accusing Bondi and the DOJ of cherry-picking. They're saying the department is only releasing documents that make Democrats look bad while holding back anything that might implicate Trump or his allies. They're saying the releases are slow. They're saying the redactions are suspicious. They're saying this isn't transparency. It's selective prosecution. Congressman Robert Garcia, a Democrat, has been all over this. He's demanding answers. He's calling out Bondi. He's saying the DOJ is dragging its feet. And he's not alone. Epstein survivors, the actual victims, have been pushing for full disclosure. They want everything released. No redactions, no delays, no excuses. And they're frustrated because it feels like once again powerful people are protecting other powerful people. So now you've got this insane situation where the Clintons are saying, we'll testify publicly about Epstein. At the exact same time, Trump's DOJ is being accused of hiding Epstein evidence. And that creates a massive problem for Trump, because if the Clintons go on TV, answer every question, show total transparency and look credible, then people are going to ask, why isn't Trump doing the same? Why is his DOJ slow-walking the releases? What's he hiding? And Trump knows this. That's why he's panicking. Because this was supposed to be easy. Republicans investigate the Clintons. Find dirt, release it. The Clintons look bad. Trump looks strong. Simple. Except the Clintons just flipped it. They said, okay, let's do this publicly. Let's answer everything. Let's show everyone we have nothing to hide. And now Trump is stuck because his own transparency is suddenly on trial too. Trump was also close to Epstein. That's not a secret. There are photos, there are quotes. Trump himself has said Epstein was a terrific guy who liked women on the younger side. That quote is real. It's on the record. Trump has tried to distance himself since, saying he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago, saying they had a falling out. But the connection is there. And if the Clintons start talking publicly about Epstein's network, about who knew what, about how all these powerful men enabled him, Trump's name is going to come up guaranteed. So, Trump can't attack the Clintons for being transparent without people asking why he isn't being transparent. He can't criticize them for testifying publicly without people asking why his DOJ is hiding documents. He can't make this about the Clintons without it becoming about everyone, including him. That's the trap. That's why he's panicking. Comer is stuck too. If he agrees to a public hearing, the Clintons win. They look brave, they look honest, they look like they're willing to face their accusers in the open. But if he refuses, if he insists on closed-door depositions, then it looks like Republicans are scared, like they don't want the public to see the full story. Like maybe this whole investigation is just about selectively leaking bad stuff about Democrats while protecting Republicans. And that's exactly what the Clintons are betting on. They're betting that Republicans won't want a public hearing, because a public hearing means transparency. Real transparency. Not just releasing documents that make your enemies look bad, but actually letting the public see the questions, the answers, the tone, the context, everything. And if Republicans balk at that, if they refuse, then the Clintons can say, see, we wanted to testify publicly. They wouldn't let us. What are they hiding? This is political chess at the highest level. The Clintons took a losing position, facing subpoenas and contempt charges, and turned it into a winning move by demanding transparency. They called the Republicans bluff, and now Trump, Comer, and the entire GOP are stuck trying to figure out how to investigate the Clintons without accidentally investigating themselves. Because the truth is, nobody in power wants the full Epstein story to come out. Not the Clintons, not Trump, not anyone. Epstein had connections everywhere. Democrats, Republicans, business leaders, celebrities, academics, everyone. And if you start pulling on one thread, the whole thing unravels. That's why this is so dangerous. The Clintons are saying, fine, let's pull on all the threads. Let's see where they lead. Let's do it publicly. And Republicans are realizing, wait, some of those threads lead back to us. Trump is panicking because Bill Clinton just challenged Congress to ask him about Epstein in public. And if that happens, if Clinton sits there on national television and answers every question without flinching, then Trump's going to have to explain why his DOJ is still hiding documents, why the releases are slow, why the redactions are so heavy. And he doesn't have a good answer, because the answer is, they're protecting people, powerful people, maybe even Trump himself. This is the story. The Clintons versus Trump. Epstein in the middle. And transparency is the weapon. Whoever looks more open, whoever looks more willing to face the truth wins. And right now, somehow, impossibly, the Clintons are winning. And Trump is stuck. Let's break this down into the core dynamics, because once you see the strategy here, it's actually brilliant. The Clintons turned a Republican attack into a Republican nightmare by doing the one thing nobody expected, demanding total transparency. First, the Clintons were facing serious legal trouble. Contempt of Congress is no joke. You can go to jail for that. And Republicans had them dead to rights. They issued valid subpoenas. The Clintons refused to comply. That's contempt. Open and shut. Comer was ready to move forward. Trump's DOJ under Pam Bondi would have been responsible for prosecuting them. It was this perfect storm where Republicans had all the leverage. But instead of continuing to fight, the Clintons agreed to testify. That neutralized the contempt threat. You can't hold someone in contempt if they agree to show up, so immediately the legal pressure is off. No jail, no prosecution, just testimony. Smart move. But they didn't stop there. They added the twist. We will testify, but we want it public. And that twist changes everything. Second, demanding a public hearing flips the power dynamic. In a closed-door deposition, Republicans control what gets released. They can cherry-pick quotes. They can leak selectively. They can make the Clintons look bad no matter what they actually say. That's how congressional depositions usually work. The committee gets the full transcript, but the public only sees the parts the committee wants them to see. It's a rigged game. But in a public hearing, everyone sees everything. The questions, the answers, the tone, the body language, the context. You can't edit it. You can't spin it. It just is. And if the Clintons answer every question directly, if they look honest and forthcoming, then they win. They look transparent. They look like they have nothing to hide. And Republicans look like they were running a political hit job all along. So by demanding a public hearing, the Clintons are betting they can handle the questions. They're betting they can explain their relationship with Epstein in a way that, while maybe not great, isn't criminal. And they're betting that Republicans don't actually want a full public airing of the Epstein connections because it might implicate people Republicans want to protect, like Trump. Third, this exposes Trump's DOJ problem. Trump's Justice Department is supposed to be releasing all the Epstein files. Congress passed a law. Trump signed it. Bondi promised transparency, but the releases have been slow, selective, and heavily redacted. Democrats are accusing the DOJ of protecting Republicans while exposing Democrats. Epstein survivors are frustrated because they're not getting the full truth. And now the Clintons are saying, we'll testify publicly. And that creates this obvious comparison. If the Clintons are willing to sit in front of Congress and answer questions on live TV, why isn't Trump's DOJ releasing everything? What are they hiding? Who are they protecting? That's a question Trump can't answer without looking bad because either he admits they're hiding stuff or he has to explain why the releases are so slow. Neither answer is good. Here's the kicker. Some of those Epstein documents almost certainly implicate Trump. We know Trump and Epstein were friends. We know Trump flew on Epstein's plane. We know Trump partied with Epstein. Trump himself said Epstein liked women on the younger side. That's documented. So, if the full Epstein files come out, Trump's name is in there probably a lot. And Trump knows that. That's why the DOJ is being careful. That's why the releases are slow. They're trying to manage what comes out and when. But the Clintons just made that strategy impossible. Because if Clinton testifies publicly and looks transparent, the pressure on Trump to release everything becomes overwhelming. The public will demand it. Survivors will demand it. Even some Republicans will demand it. And Trump won't be able to hide behind selective releases anymore. The Clintons basically forced Trump's hand by volunteering to be completely open themselves. Fourth, this splits Republicans. Some Republicans genuinely want the full Epstein truth to come out. They're not trying to protect anyone. They just want accountability. But other Republicans, especially those close to Trump, don't want a full public Epstein investigation because it might expose people they like, people they support, people in their own party. So now Comer has to choose. Does he give the Clintons the public hearing they want, which serves the transparency wing of his party, but might backfire politically? Or does he keep it behind closed doors, which protects Trump, but makes Republicans look like hypocrites who only care about transparency when it hurts Democrats? There's no good answer either way. Someone in the GOP is unhappy, and that's the genius of the Clintons' move. They didn't just agree to testify. They created a situation where Republicans have to choose between their stated values, transparency and accountability, and their political interests, protecting Trump. And whichever they choose, they lose something. Fifth, this changes the 2026 narrative. Republicans wanted to run on the Clintons and Epstein. They wanted to make the midterms about Democratic corruption, about powerful liberals getting away with crimes, about elite impunity. That was the plan. Investigate the Clintons, make them look bad, win elections. Simple. But now, if the Clintons testify publicly and handle it well, that narrative collapses because they won't look like they're hiding. They'll look like they cooperated fully. They'll look like they faced their accusers, and Republicans will look like they were running a partisan witch hunt. That's not a winning message. That's a losing message. And even worse for Republicans, if the Clintons testify publicly and start talking about Trump's connections to Epstein, about Trump's DOJ hiding documents, about selective transparency, then the story becomes about Trump, not the Clintons. And that's a disaster for the GOP going into 2026 because Trump is already unpopular. His approval ratings are bad, and if the midterms become about Trump and Epstein instead of Biden or the Clintons or inflation, Republicans lose. So here's what it all means. The Clintons took a terrible situation, facing subpoenas and possible contempt, and turned it into a strategic win by demanding the one thing Republicans didn't expect: total public transparency. They called the bluff. They said, "You want to investigate us? Fine. Let's do it where everyone can watch. Let's see how that goes." And now Trump is stuck, because if the Clintons look good, if they look honest, if they look transparent, then Trump looks like the one hiding something. Trump's DOJ looks corrupt. Trump's connection to Epstein becomes the story, and Republicans lose the narrative advantage they thought they had. This is why Trump is panicking. This is why the whole GOP establishment is freaking out, because the Clintons just turned their biggest vulnerability into a weapon. They're using transparency as a shield and a sword. Shield because public testimony protects them from selective leaks. Sword because it forces Trump to match their transparency or look guilty. The best part is that the Clintons didn't have to do this. They could have kept fighting the subpoenas. They could have dragged it out in court. They could have made Republicans work for every inch. But they didn't. They said, "We'll testify publicly right now. Come at us." And Republicans are realizing, wait, this might not go the way we thought. So, yeah, Bill Clinton called for a public Epstein hearing, or more accurately, his lawyers said they'd prefer one, but the effect is the same. The Clintons are challenging Republicans to question them in front of the whole country. And Trump, he's panicking because a public hearing means public scrutiny of everyone connected to Epstein, not just the Clintons. And Trump is very much connected to Epstein. That's the reality. That's the truth. And that's why this story matters. The Clintons' public testimony could finally bring real transparency to the Epstein network if it actually happens. Right now, the Clintons appear more open to facing the truth, and Trump is panicking, knowing the full story may be damaging for everyone involved.